The night was fat with thunder when Chief Aben ordered the drums to sound for the harvest feast. Flames licked the air, painting the villagers' faces in orange and gold. Beneath the laughter, beneath the wine, something older stirred the rhythm that would not rest. Under the sacred drum stand lay a secret. King Tu's body, folded and hidden beneath clay and silence. The chief's crime slept shallow beneath the soil, and every strike of the drum pressed it deeper into memory. When the dancers stopped and the night fell still, a single drum beat echoed slow, deliberate, coming from no human hand. Boom! The sound rode through the village like a heart refusing death. The drummers froze. The air chilled. Then again, boom! Chief Aben's smile faltered. Who strikes the drum? He barked. No one answered. Even the fire seemed dim. In the quiet, his wife Jerry whispered, "It's the earth calling him." Aben laughed sharply, masking fear with mockery.
It's the earth calling
Nonsense!
him.
The wind plays tricks. But when the villagers lay in their huts, the sound continued steady, patient, as if counting their breaths. And in the chief's own house, his young son Tano tossed in sleep, his small chest rising to the same impossible rhythm. Boom, boom. The law of the unseen had begun to wake. By the second moon, the village no longer laughed when the drum sounded. Children woke crying. The goats birthed still. Smoke curled from cooking fires into faces that refused to smile. The drumbeat came at dusk now, not from wood, but from the ground itself, vibrating through the wells, trembling through clay pots, humming beneath bare feet. Old women spat into the dust and whispered, "The earth is angry." Chief Aben sat on his carved stool before the council, jaw tight. "Do not spread fear," he ordered. "The gods test the strong. I will not kneel to ghost tales." But at night, the test became torment. His son shivered with fever, his small hands beating his chest unconsciously. Boom, boom, boom. The sound was perfect, identical to the buried drum. Jerry wept quietly. "It's him, Aben, the servant. You must confess what you did." Aben slammed his hand against the table. "Enough!" The oil lamp flickered, flame snapping tall, throwing his shadow across the wall, a shadow that beat its own rhythm against the plaster. The drummers who once served his court fled the village, saying the drum breathed when they touched it. Aben ordered the sacred drum brought to him. It stood before him, ancient, blackened with age. He raised a torch. "If sound defies me, let silence obey." He held the flame. The drum ignited, but as it burned, it began to sing, not with words, but with a low human moan woven in each crack of the wood. "Abenin," the fire whispered, "you cannot silence what you buried." The flames refused to die until the chief himself fell to his knees, covering his ears as the wind howled through his courtyard like 1,000 invisible hands drumming the truth against his soul. In the distance, thunder joined the rhythm, slow, merciless, ancient, and the people whispered in their huts, "The ancestors have begun their march." The rain stopped falling. The wind stilled. Even the birds fled the valley. By the third moon, silence had become the cruelest sound in Aben's village silence, and that ceaseless heartbeat beneath the earth. When the drummers fled, the chief called his warriors. "Dig!" he commanded, his voice a cracked echo of its former power. "Dig and bring me his bones. I will burn this curse myself." Torches hissed in the night. Men with shovels dug at the foot of the sacred platform where Kintu had been buried. The soil came up black and wet, but no body waited there, only a hollow cavity, cool and pulsing with invisible life. The torches flickered blue. Aben's breath caught. "The body's gone," one of the men whispered. Aben spat. "He was eaten by worms. The curse is superstition." But the air said otherwise. The wind began to hum with the slow rhythm of the drum. Boom, boom. Dust lifted around their feet like mist rising from an unseen mouth. When they returned to the village, torches guttering, every hut door was shut tight. From within, prayers murmured. Names of ancestors called out in fear. At dawn, the council of elders gathered. Their faces were hard, their eyes lined with judgment. "You buried a man without rights," the oldest said. "The ancestors are deaf to our prayers because your hands are stained." "I did what was needed for order," Aben replied. His voice wavered, then steadied. "Would you let a servant ruin your chief?" "The servant spoke truth," the elder said. "And now truth drums under your roof." They gave him a deadline the next new moon. Either he confessed and performed right of return, or he would be stripped of title and name. Aben's face twisted. "No council rules me. I rule the land." That night, the elder's hut burned. 2 died in the fire. The flames spread, and the wind carried the drum's rhythm through the smoke. By morning the sky was grey with ash, and Jerry fell to her knees beside the threshold, her voice breaking. "You've brought the curse home." Inside, their Santano lay sweating, whispering to someone unseen. "Father," the boy said weakly. "The man in the ground says he's cold." Aben staggered back. "What did you say?" "The man says he's waiting for you." The chief turned toward the drum house. The sound was no longer distant. It pulsed through the walls of his home, through the beat of his son's heart. The line between the living and the buried had finally broken. The next night, the priest came. His white robe shimmered faintly in the firelight, dust and ash clinging to its hem. "Chief Aben," he said, voice low, "there is one road left before the curse consumes your bloodline. You must perform Kuhifadi Roho, the preservation of souls. Dig where the truth lies and speak the servant's name. Only then can balance return." Aben's eyes were wild. "You would have me confess before peasants?" "Not before men," said the priest. "Before the earth that remembers." Nyeri's hands trembled as she pressed a shovel into her husband's grip. "If not for them," she whispered, "do it for our son." They walked into the night. The villagers followed in silence, forming a wide circle around the sacred ground. The drum lay cracked and cold at the center. Lightning flashed above, illuminating the pit where Kintu had once been buried. "Dig," the priest ordered. Aben began to claw at the soil. Each handful came up heavy, black, wet with more than rain. His breath rasped. The ground pulsed under his fingers, alive, accusing. "Kintu," he said finally, "I killed you." His voice cracked, fell to a whisper. You saw what I took. You spoke when silence was safer. I feared you. Thunder answered him, rolling deep, slow. The drum, though broken, shuddered once. The priest raised a gourd of water mixed with goat's blood. The ancestors hear you, but they ask, is this confession truth or fear? Aben looked toward his son, pale and trembling beside Nyeri. Tano's heartbeat echoed faintly across the night, sinking again with the drum. It is truth, Aben cried. I struck him once, then again. I buried him here with my own hands. I broke the covenant of justice. The drumbeat slowed. Wind swirled the dust into spirals. From the earth rose a faint glow, the spirit's release, or its warning. The priest's voice deepened. A life must answer a life. The blood of the wronged still waits. Aben fell to his knees. No, take me, not my son. You began the curse, the priest said, eyes closed. Only your blood can silence it. Lightning split the sky. The villagers gasped. The chief looked to Njeri. Her tears gleamed, but she nodded. Aben took the ceremonial blade, its edge dull but merciless. He pressed it to his chest, over the place where the drumbeat thundered. 3 times he struck, each blow matching the ancient rhythm. Boom, boom, boom. When the last echo faded, the storm stilled. The earth sighed. The broken drum fell silent. Rain began to fall slow, pure, forgiving. The priest raised his staff. The balance stand, and the villagers knelt in the mud, heads bowed not for the chief, not for the dead servant, but for the unseen law that had spoken through them both. Morning crawled slowly across the horizon, pale and new. The storm had passed, leaving the village washed and silent. The air smelled of wet clay, smoke, and the faint sweetness of rebirth. In the sacred clearing, the villagers gathered. At its center lay Chief Aben, his chest marked with 3 deep wounds, blood mingled with rain and earth, an offering that glistened like rusted gold in the sunrise. Beside him knelt Nyeri, her head bowed, lips moving soundlessly. The priest raised his staff toward the east. The debt is paid, he said. The earth has swallowed truth and released mercy. The villagers murmured in unison, so be it. From the pit where Kintu's body had once been buried, a single green shoot had sprouted overnight, tender, bright, trembling in the wind. The priest pointed to it. Life grows where guilt was confessed. The ancestors are at rest. Tano, pale but breathing strong now, stood beside his mother. The drumming in his chest had stopped. His eyes, once clouded, were clear again. He looked at his father's still form and whispered. He gave back the breath he stole. Nyeri wrapped her arms around him. And because of that, you will live to lead rightly. The villagers built a new altar where the cursed drum had stood. They burned offerings of salt, millet, and palm oil, their smoke rising straight into the clean morning sky. As the fire hissed, the priest spoke again. Let every heart remember this. The ground does not forget what we bury. Pride deafens the ear to warning, but confession makes the wind sing again. The people nodded, tears glinting on their cheeks. The thunder that had haunted them for moons was gone. The air was still. Nyeri took her husband's blade, the one he had struck himself with, and thrust it into the soil beside the sprout. "Let the blade become root," she said softly. "Let truth feed the next generation." The priest placed his hand on Tano's shoulder. "You will lead when you are of age. But remember, boy, the throne is not a crown. It is a weight. It keeps its memory in blood." That night, the village held a vigil. No drums, no songs, only silence and firelight. It was the silence of balance restored, not fear. The stars burned clear for the first time in months. And deep beneath the soil, where Kintu's bones lay beside Arben's, the earth hummed faintly, not in accusation, but in peace. Years passed like slow rain across old stone. Under Tano's rule, the village changed. Fields grew fat with grain again, the river swelled, and laughter returned to the huts. Yet no one ever rebuilt the old drum. The platform remained bare, a reminder carved into time itself. On every harvest moon, Tano would stand before the people and strike his chest 3 times, not in pride, but in remembrance. The villagers answered with silence, each imagining the sound that had once haunted them. Boom, boom, boom. It was no longer terror, it was memory. Nyeri, her hair now silver, sat at the edge of each ceremony, watching her son's calm eyes, her husband's spirit echoing faintly behind them. When children asked about the drum, she told the story. There was once a chief who thought power louder than truth. He buried a man who spoke it. But truth has a heartbeat. It drummed until his own blood answered. The children would fall silent, wide-eyed. She would smile gently. "Remember this, my little ones. The earth listens longer than we do." As Tano grew older, he carved a small wooden drum, not for music, but for teaching. It bore an inscription burned into his skin. "A lie buried is a seed that grows thorns." Whenever dispute rose in the village, he placed that drum between the quarreling parties. "Strike it," he would say, "if your hands are clean." Most turned away in silence. The lesson endured. One night, during a gathering of the elders, a distant storm rolled over the hills. Thunder rumbled slow, deep, familiar. For a heartbeat, the villagers froze. Then Tano smiled. "Not all thunder is curse," he said. "Sometimes it is the ancestors reminding us to walk straight." The rain came soft, heavy, and blessed. The fields drank deeply. In the old clearing, the blade Nyeri had buried years ago had rusted into the roots of a wide tree. Its trunk was smooth, its shade cool. On its bark, someone had carved the final words of the story. "To the earth forgets nothing, but it forgives the brave." As the tree swayed under the weight of the wind, it almost sounded like a drum. Low, slow, and steady. Not of vengeance, but of memory. And so, the drum that wouldn't stop beating became a story told by firelight, carried across generations, each retelling a heartbeat that reminded the living of the law older than kings. Every crime calls the wind. Every confession calls the rain. Night gathers thick and warm, the kind that hums with memory. The air smells of wood smoke and roasted millet. Children sit in a half circle around the fire, eyes wide, faces gilded in flame. The old storyteller, skim-folded like dry bark, leans forward, staff planted firm in the dust. His voice is low, cracked but steady, like an old drum that still remembers its song. Listen well, he begins, for the wind is patient and the earth keeps account. He points toward the horizon where the dark hills brew. In those hills, long before your fathers' fathers were born, a chief struck down a man who spoke truth. He thought the grave was silence. But silence, he smiles thinly, has a sound. The children shiver as the fire pops. He taps his staff against the earth. Boom. The sound rose outward. Boom. That was the drum beneath the soil, he says. It beat until the blood that had sinned confessed itself clean. A girl raises her hand timidly. Grandfather, did the earth really forgive him? The old man's eyes gleam like embers. Forgive? Yes. Forget? Never. The earth forgives the brave, the ones who face their own shadow. But it keeps the memory to teach those who come after. He stirs the fire, and sparks whirl up like restless spirits finding their way home. You see, he continues, the drum was never cursed. It was justice wearing the skin of sound. When its rhythm matched a guilty heart, the heart would know itself. That is why thunder still rolls slow before the rains. It is the ancestors drumming to remind us of balance. He leans closer, voice soft, smoke curling through his words. Every time you lie, the earth listens. Every time you harm, the soil sighs. And when truth is buried, the drum begins again. Silence falls over the circle. The only sound is the hiss of fire eating wood. Then the storyteller lifts his head toward the star-washed sky. His voice deepens, solemn, ancient. So remember the name of Chief Aben, who learned too late that power without humility deafens the soul. Remember King Tu, whose blood taught even the proud that the grave does not sleep. And remember the law of balance, the heartbeat that binds the living and the dead. He strikes the ground one last time with his staff. Boom! The flames bow. The night listens. The children bow their heads as the old man murmurs the closing words of all true African stories. When we tell the tale, the spirits rest. When we forget it, the drum begins again. He smiles faintly, the fire reflecting in his eyes. Now go, little ones, he says. Sleep clean. The earth is listening. And as the wind stirs the coals, somewhere far across the plain, thunder rumbles once low, patient, eternal. African tales, African folklore, storytelling magic, where justice speaks through drums and forgiveness through rain. The wind moved through the savannah like an old prayer, bending the tall grass, whispering through the trees that had watched 100 lifetimes pass. Somewhere, a drumbeat rode not from skin or hand, but from the heartbeat of the earth itself. By the evening fire, the old griot sat cross-legged, his back straight despite the years.